Welcome to our vacation edition
Yeah.
of the Prospect Podcast. We have Coach D's down below today. I'd never seen it do that before, Coach D.
New spot. I mean, I figured since I was south, Florida wise, hopefully now we'll just situate myself down there.
Yeah, I don't know it's. I've never seen it do that before. Um, and we have a fantastic guest today, Coach Manny Matsakis. Just recently finished a kind of shortened season of the Ohio Valley Ironman, professional, a part of the professional league. Um, and we're going to talk all about that today. So we're glad to have him. I'll have him give like the quick summary for people who haven't watched our part one with him. But if you can give a kind of quick summary of his background. Um, Before I let him do that, coach has been around for a long time. Has coached at the highest of levels. Is known as one of the innovators in the air raid offense. And we're talking about someone that's coached some of the best players in the country of all time. So I'll let him kind of dive a little bit in it, just so we have a quick background again for any new listeners with Coach Matsakis.
Sure, Coach. I appreciate that. Yeah, my background, I'm originally here from about an hour west of Pittsburgh. It's called the Ohio Valley. And my dad was a longtime athletic director, football coach in the area. And somehow I got into coaching after getting drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Decided I wanted to coach football instead of go to dental school. And one thing led to another, man. It's just been a crazy ride. I've been fortunate to be a head coach 5 times and offensive coordinator pretty much the rest of my career. Everything from some legendary teams at Hofstra to leading the nation and all divisions there in offense, and Emporia State, having a Harlan Hill award winner there who led the all-time leading rusher in college football. But I mean, it's been a great ride. And, I left, I guess, early retirement in my mind from coaching to help out IMG Academy on some things. And just one thing led to another. And here we are back in the Ohio Valley where I grew up, and bringing back a storied franchise that used to be the farm team for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 1960s. So they were called the Wheeling Ironmen, and then in the late 60s, they transitioned to the Ohio Valley Ironman, and basically folded up back in 1969. Vietnam was going on, and they were in a league called the Continental Football League that at that time, a lot of, as a historian, it was pretty interesting there because the Continental Football League was on the same level as the AFL. And then once the AFL got the NFL, they got that merger. Right. The TV money made it very difficult for Continental Football League, and then they folded all at the same time. And the amazing thing was, looking back at the old, it's called microfiche, like when you go into into the library and, you look at old stuff that's not readily available online. I see an article in the Indianapolis newspaper where the Ironmen were one vote away from joining the Canadian Football League. So that was that big of a deal here, and the support was so strong. There's a big article on Sports Illustrated about the Ironmen, and just something about doing it on a shoestring budget or something. It's pretty cool. A lot of national exposure in the late 60s for these guys.
Very interesting. Yeah. It's very interesting because of the different professional leagues that there are, and from the UFL to the league that you guys were in. Talk about your experience this past year and kind of what you guys had some amazing accomplishments. Maybe we're too good in some aspects, and that's a positive for your the rest of the league obviously has to catch up, right? But talk about that and kind of your experience and what you started doing this year.
Well, it was interesting, Coach, because I'm looking at this and I had no idea what we were getting into. A good buddy of mine, Hal Mummy, had called, and he had a team in San Antonio in this International Football Alliance League. And he said, "Hey, you ought to come on and join this league, and you get to coach again." And I don't know, in about 72 hours, I got a team back in end of October, early November. We made an announcement. Other than coaching, I didn't even think about what ownership will be like, what being the GM, and all these types of things together. So we had no blueprint. We used a lot of my connections to find the best players possible, and it's pretty evident as we got into the season. We were very ahead of anybody to play. Now, what ended up happening, and I think you guys had my assistant Stan Bedwell on here, and San Antonio folded along with other teams before the season ever started. So, Stan was calling me, wanted something to do. We had a relationship just through Hal. And next thing you know, he's moving up here. We're staying here at my house, and was here to just get things moving. So we start off, Dave, and I can't make this up. I mean, 3 games. The first 2 games, the opponent had to decide. They decided on a running clock. The last game, the opponent didn't decide on a running clock, even though we let them. And we ended up scoring 82 points that game to nothing. So we were 166-0 in our games during the month of June. And I think the most difficult thing for me was I left. We had an open week the last week of June. I went to Greece for my daughter's wedding. And as soon as my plane drops down in Athens, my phone's ringing off the hook. I start getting calls from people representing the teams we're going to play in July. And a few of the teams said they did not want to play us. They canceled. I dug a little deeper. They were looking at our video. They were not excited about playing us, and they were undefeated. That's the crazy thing.
Right.
I mean, they're good teams, but they saw what we had put together, and they, as I tell our coaches, it's like the old days of Roberto Duran and saying "No Moss," and no more. So it was over, and the owner hat of me, Dave, was just so. I was troubled by it. I kept trying to get games, get people to restructure it when I knew they had open dates, and they just weren't able to for whatever reason, financial. Maybe they looked at the video. I have no idea, but could not get a game. So I had to, from Greece, put a press release together and let people know that the Ironmen were done and we're going to regroup and make some decisions moving forward. So that's really how it happened.
It's wild. It's that like the that everybody. Well, I guess when they're getting beat that bad, they must not have the players that they were able to recruit to get to the organization that are good enough. Where you had what made your access to players different than maybe some of those other teams?
Well, I look at their coaches, their GMs, their owners, and stuff like that. There is a significant difference. I mean, this is needless to say, when you've been coaching as long as I have, you make a lot of great relationships. Even getting a guy like Stan up here to coach. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do that unless Hal said, "Hey, visit with Stan. He's, wants to help." He helped gets a few players up here. We already had a very strong team. And then when we put it together, it's like, hey, look, I don't know what we're going to face. I'm just trying to find the best players that fit what we do.
Right.
And, I had no idea. But when we got out there in that first game and we're like 45-0 or something, and it's a running clock the second half, it's like, oh, geez.
Right.
I mean, it just happened.
Now, Coach, do you credit that, like, in terms of, because I'm thinking about the overall structure of the league, right? Because for some, in retrospect, like the league itself kind of had to police certain teams, right? And I mean, did they just not like look at the structure of your team and kind of how it was all coming together? And then, like where does the league factor into the entire decision? Like, how do they allow these teams to just say, hey, we're not playing, like we're just not playing
Okay.
these guys,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
where does that kind of come
That's a
into
good
play?
question, Derek. So what happened was initially there were like 7 teams supposed to be in
Right.
this league, right? And then right before Christmas, our one team that was one of our closer teams was the Baltimore team, and they folded up. Well, actually, they didn't fold up. Here's what happened: there were some improprieties. The head of the league just kicked them out. They said, "We're leaving anyway." He said, "She said,"
Right.
and
We
now
know
one of
that
my
deal.
closest games is gone. And then a couple months later, a team in Huntsville, they were called the Beavers. They were doing some things behind the scenes that were less than, I guess, kosher, to say anything than that. They were just doing not the right things. They weren't. They were just. There's a lot of misuse of appropriated funds, according to the reports. So they get kicked out. That's another team that's only 8 hours away from me. So all of a sudden, I had to salvage a season, and we start looking at professional athletic development teams, teams that like in bigger areas, like we played a team in Cincinnati that had a lot of D1 players in the region that were playing for them. So we started to reschedule what I would call non-league games. And so the non-league games are the ones that just bailed on us. And then, the team.
And that was kind of the bulk of your schedule when a lot of those teams kind of dropped out.
So it wasn't necessarily the league. It was just teams that first scheduled me thought probably, hey, this will be an easy win. These guys are just getting started, and
they got no clue. But then
and then we put
little did they know. I love it.
Happens, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It's very interesting to see. And look, I think this is one of the struggles with all of the kind of minor league football system in general is, football is expensive, right? I don't think people really understand what it takes to put together an actual team, let alone an organization and all of those things that go along with it. And you're talking number of players, travel. I mean, there's just so many, even the foundation of it, when you're talking about equipment wise, in terms of just this guy has, this much money on his body. This is not basketball where it's shorts and a t-shirt and it's, hey, go, you know what I mean? And you're talking about numbers of guys and just organization wise and those types of things. I think it's just very different when it comes to talking about, that aspect of this game, which is important. Let me ask you this, Coach, what about the sustainability of the league in the spring, summer? Like, what have you learned about, the smaller markets and those types of things when it comes to, do you need a big market to make one of these things happen? Can you get it done in a smaller market? What are the benefits, some of the pros and the cons? What do you think? How does, after this experience, kind of, what do you think in terms of that?
Well, I'm fortunate to have had this experience. I mean, it gives me a different lens to look at, Derek. So, I mean, one of the things about that specifically, I believe that that's where the market should be. You don't want to be in NFL cities. You want to be, maybe an hour, 2 hours away from an NFL city. The reason being that there's too much else to do in those markets.
Right.
And it makes it very difficult to get an ownership of the team, which I felt that's where San Antonio struggled. I mean, the reason they didn't make it was they couldn't get enough support to make it work where we did. So I think you want to find that mid-major market. And I think of it, Dave, as I'm visiting with you and Derek, it's like, think about like minor league baseball. Where are those teams? I mean, you got the New York Yankees and, they have minor league teams in Toledo, Columbus, Ohio, wherever their teams are. And those are markets that don't have major league baseball teams, so although football doesn't have a defined structure, I believe that we may have just, because of the season we may have just created our level. And how I look at it is we were probably playing at what would be considered like a single A level of football. And the AAA would be like the UFL, which had a lot of spring broadcasting and so forth.
Yeah.
There's no AA out there, is what I'm noticing. There's nothing out there where they pay the players and they put them up in housing and they're paying the coaches and they are who they are. So I think the minor league baseball concept is something that we may have just created it. That's what's exciting to me.
But I think that's a big part of it. With the
You're kind of going in and out, Dave.
uh,
You there? Might be losing you.
You
Yeah, I think we're losing him.
We're losing you a little bit, Coach. You're kind of going in and out.
Having some level of success, like other leagues being able to do that, like the old original arena was able to do. I don't know if what has to happen from other organizations in order to make that successful.
Right. Because obviously, Coach, like you may have created the blueprint where now, it's almost like you have to now go search out areas, markets, and be like, hey, let's get a team here, do it like this, right? Like you now may have created that blueprint, right? Does that make sense? I just think with the overall success, if somebody wanted to do this, why wouldn't they follow your blueprint, right? In terms of how just everything in general, right? Because when we first you were holding tryouts, camps, right? Like, and you touched on every level of it, from ownership to the marketing aspect of it, to the raising of funds, the getting of sponsors, all that stuff that it takes to build an organization. And that's before you get to players and coaching staff and actual X's and O's, right? Like there's a lot that kind of goes into that, right? So what would be the next move in order, Coach, to is it to go find those markets and create teams, or is it to do something with the Ironman as a team and organization itself? And what's the next move in terms of where do you go from here?
Yeah, Derek, I think it's both of that. I mean, I think number one is I've had teams, like multiple teams and owners, reach out to me in the last week or so, wanting to say, hey, we want to do what you did.
Awesome.
Okay? Which is great.
Right.
I'm also realizing that, you were correct financially. That this is not, you don't just get in like arena football and pay $5,000 and you're in.
And you're in. Like, hey, and these guys, it's not like this is pay to play either, right? Like, it's not like you could say, hey, guys, everybody's got to pay this and we're ready to rock. Like, that's not how this works.
But to answer your question, I think right now we've got to fortify everything with the Ironman. We need to get our infrastructure ready for 2026. While we're doing that, we are entertaining talks with different individuals looking at markets. The great thing is our broadcast was fantastic. So we work with WTRF Channel 7 here in Wheeling, West Virginia, and they broadcast our games like it was an NFL game. Instant replay, sideline reporters, everything was first class. And by doing that, we set the blueprint. There's nobody at our level that looked like us from a broadcast perspective. A lot of these things were like what you see in high school, where it's like, they're streaming it on YouTube or something.
Right.
And
stationary camera, one shot, not even moving, no commentary. Yeah.
So this was legitimate, and I think people really noticed it in this arena, in what we're doing. So yes, number one, establish the Ironman for 2026. While we're doing that, let's find the right level of opponents that can come in and play on par with us right now. The market,
Coach, is that possible?
Yes.
Are there teams out there with the same, I get what single A type structure, right? When we compared it to baseball, are there teams out there that can not only compete but like are just on your level? Like what does that exist?
Very few, less than this many. But knowing that we pulled this off
Right.
in November to be able to play in June tells me that it can happen if you follow the blueprint. So
Correct.
I believe we've got the blueprint.
Yeah.
I also understand the financial side of things. So when I say that, I mean, we don't want to be flying to Mexico and deep in Texas and Florida to play games because you're not on a budget. Like, you know, we're not getting broadcast by Disney and ESPN, right? It's not happening. So the plan would be that, look, if I'm looking in a perfect world and I see, you know, like Wheeling, where I'm at in this region, right? Wheeling's always been known, believe it or not, as a hub city, even back in the early 1900s. It's centrally located. You got the Ohio River coming down. You got Pittsburgh. You got Columbus, Cleveland. There's a lot around here, and it is football country.
Right.
So
I mean, yeah, you're in the heart of it.
Yeah. So if I look at that and I can say, you know, within 300 miles, I can go to New Jersey, I can go to Indianapolis, I can go into Kentucky, you know, and places like that. From here, this is where I believe we need to be playing.
Right.
Against teams in that market. And I go back to the Continental Football League and be thinking, you know what, when they were good, they were playing teams in their market. Now they expanded, they were huge. There was a time it was coast to coast. But, you know, there was a team in New Jersey. They had the Newark Bears were playing there in Newark. You know, you had a team up in down in Norfolk, Virginia. You had a team up in Connecticut, you know, and all over. Toledo and the Wheeling Ironmen were a huge rivalry game, you know. So it's like that made for a much more interesting dynamic. And they were all on par doing the same things.
Right.
So if we find the right markets, and we can move things forward nicely here in the fall, then I believe we may have a strategy to help us. If not, we want to stay independent, find the best possible opponent. Because, Derek, as you mentioned, are there single A teams? Yeah, there's a bunch of single A teams. That's who we were playing. But we were doing it as a double A funded team.
Yeah.
I mean,
you were above what you were playing. Yeah.
Could you guys get good enough players to be a part of the UFL?
I have been told by scouts that when they saw us play, that we could compete with UFL teams. The problem is the UFL is a single entity ownership. It's not a bunch of owners where I can call the Rock and say,
and be like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, get me in. We're ready to play. We got a market for you.
Right.
And the biggest issue I have with the UFL is they're all in a hub, like as if it's COVID down in Arlington, and they're flying.
They stay in one spot and they play. Yeah. They play all their games in one, like right.
They practice in Arlington.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Yes.
And then they'll fly them to Washington D.C. to play for the Defenders, and you know, and they send them to Birmingham. So I can easily tell you guys this, that the Ironman players were a much bigger deal here in our region than any UFL player in their region, because they don't get to know the players. They can't come by and watch practice. There's very little media in their specific markets. I think that may be the demise of the UFL. So I think, as I've mentioned, Dave, I believe we could be on the verge of creating something special right now. I look at it this way. For this to work, you have to have a legitimate commissioner, somebody pro football experience, has been there, done that, not just some guy sitting in his mother's basement, you know, drawing on bar napkins, trying to say, I got a new league and I'm going to call it this, right? Yeah. That's never worked. No. You know, it just doesn't work. So I think you have to have great leadership. You have to have the right number of people that want to play and some drama, and you've got to have broadcasting. Right. I mean, of course we can stream, but in the market where we're at, understand, Channel 7 not only sold all our advertising for the games, they split it 50-50 with the Ironman.
See, that's amazing.
Like it was a true partnership. So if you're in, I mean, you guys are out in New Jersey, well, not today, but I will tell you this. you know, if you put a team in New York, you're not going to get any type of
No,
media exposure.
nope.
But if you put a team somewhere else in New Jersey,
Right.
it could work.
I
But
mean, look,
because the
it's
TV
funny that you
station
say
will
that,
win.
Coach. 'Cause, I mean, there's a minor league baseball team that's right near us, right? Like, the Lakewood Blue Claws. It's affiliation with the Philadelphia Phillies, right? And they literally play right in Lakewood, uh, Monster Stadium, right? Like the whole. And I'll tell you, if you've ever been to one of those games, it's a great atmosphere. It's a great play, right? Because there is that more I'm a part of it feel, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what it is. It's not the NFL where it's like those guys are untouchable and like you said, you have people out to practice. They can do that and kind of feel like they're more a part of the whole thing, right?
yeah,
I do think in this era the I think that's what's huge, right? I mean,
yeah,
look, you look at like Hard Knocks and you know Netflix Quarterback, right? That just came out where that behind the scenes access,
yeah,
people want that, right? And with the way social media is, just the overall interaction with players or just organizations in general, I think it's so much more hands-on with the fans, right? And that's obviously what drives it. And like you said, the market itself, when there's not that big name NFL team or like that, this is the only show in town, right? It's why
yeah,
Friday Night Lights in Texas is, or in high school football in general, is such a big deal, you
yeah.
know?
Well,
Um, I,
Derek, as you
uh,
say that to me, think about it this way, and I think Dave, I'd be interested to see what you think about this. Is you know, when you look at a team like in baseball, the Savannah Bananas, right, and you see what they're doing, and if you do something a little different but
right.
still have the structure of the game, I don't think football is structured in a way where you can just go crazy all the time, but you
Yeah.
can do entertaining things,
Remember
right?
the XFL attempted that, right? With, hey, we
Yeah,
got two guys racing for the football, the original XFL, right? Where it
sure.
was Vince McMahon, more WWE, right? They leaned more towards the entertainment side. And like
Yeah,
you said, we've had, you know, one of the Savannah Banana guys on, right? And he's talked about how, look, at the end of the day, it's still real baseball. We're
yeah.
just adding that entertainment value of something a little different, a little quirky, right? But all of us are baseball players at the end of it. And I just based off of your scores and talking to Stan and the way you have real football players, right? It's
Oh,
just a
yeah.
matter of getting the eyes, right, and all of the structure in place. And I think the blueprint now, if you go and share that, look, you have, to me, coach, you have enough networking and enough connections where, and I know how you are when your mind gets set on something, it is like, this is getting done and this is how it's going to work, right? Like your vision and your, the forward thinking, out of the box thinking, all of those things, I think coming together and finding those people, finding those markets could really, take this to the next level. It's just like you're really at the floor level of it, right? And now the only way to go is like we just build this thing out, right? And yes,
I think
what do you think, Dave?
I think you gotta. I think in this kind of a league, and the type of players that you have, um, playing playing football, like, so arena in its heyday was unique, right?
Yeah.
So it was very unique, and they leveraged those smaller markets to be successful. And the mistake they made was when they tried to be in all these big markets, and then no one showed up anymore. And then the small markets then got alienated because of it. And because the players didn't want to go to the small markets, they wanted to go to the big markets. But the big markets had no fans, so they'd lose money, and then it was a trickle down effect. But the Arena League, when it was in its heyday in that like 2000s to like maybe 2010 area, like where it really boomed,
Mhm.
Yeah, it was on TV a lot more back in
they,
the day than
they
it
had
is now.
TV, and it was a different game. I think the thing that the Savannah Bananas does really well is that, yes, it's baseball, and this is kind of the thing, like, um, Savannah Bananas are it's a baseball game. All the stuff is like outs and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's a different entertainment model, and to me, this is all entertainment. The way I look at it, it is all entertainment because in the end, the only way it succeeds is if enough people come and watch and you have enough sponsors, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't, from a business
Sure.
standpoint. If not, it doesn't matter. Like you could get games together and play against people, but that's the whole thing. It's entertainment, and what is entertaining to like the market that you are in, or what's versus what's entertaining um, nationally, right? Like what would get people's attention. So the key to me is you're the one group that has been successful in this league, right?
Mhm.
You're the one team that has a players that are actually good
Yeah.
enough that people will watch, and then the key they build it out from there. Like to me, the league starts with your team. So
Mhm.
much like the Savannah Bananas they were part of a minor league system,
There we
and it
were.
wasn't working for them. You know what I mean? So they basically pulled out of that system and formed a sister team to play against, and got similar level players. So it was a level playing field as far as athletically, which I think is important. And then is and then they made one the good guys and one the bad guy initially.
Mhm.
That's entertaining to people. People like a good guy and a bad guy. And then what happened from there is as they're expanding and all that stuff, we'll see how it continues to go. But they're selling out stadiums, and they got like
Right.
4 teams now, and so but it really started. There was no league. It was the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Right. They created a market, right?
they made the market. That's to me, the UFL is a sidebar that some people will watch, some people won't. They have enough money behind it for now for it to keep going and probably losing some level of money.
Yeah.
Okay, they have a TV deal, but it's just a minor league for the
Yeah.
NFL. That's all it is. It's a minor
Hmm.
league, and um, that'll be sustainable for a certain period of time until people get bored with it, and then it won't be sustainable. The
Yeah.
only
I see
fo-
that.
football, because it happens over and over again in football. You've been around a lot. Other than why reason why Canada is successful in Canada, because it's located in Canada. The rules are different. People in Canada say this is our football league.
Right.
Our football league. It's not the American football league. It's our football league, our rules, which are slightly different. They impose the Canadian, where you have to have a certain amount of Canadian players on the thing.
Right.
Hmm.
And obviously, the majority of the American players are the better athletes for the most part, but they have that imposed. So there's a difference in the marketplace in Canada that they can get people to the games.
Yeah.
When did they fail? When they expanded to the United States,
Yeah.
because no one in the United States cared about Canadian
Hmm.
football.
Yeah.
So that's the whole key. Now that they're kind of in their own market, they have the version of ESPN, TSN covers all the games. That's a big deal for them.
Sure.
And
Right. Well, I think the viewer that those TV deals, that's what all these guys talk about, right? Like
I
even
think with
even in college
your
football.
thing, you create your own television network.
Yeah.
Like
There you go,
you
coach.
can create there in order like you seem to have an area where people want it, right?
Hmm.
So you could create a whole atmosphere around it, and then say, "Oh, where where is there another area fairly close that we can play that can get enough players?"
Yeah.
Columbus, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wherever it is, I'm just making it up. Now you guys are now you got another team there, and then and you start to create that atmosphere that's different. That's the hard thing
Yeah,
because the aspect of um these leagues like they have to get talent. Like obviously Texas should have enough talent,
Right.
but
you
Or the
should.
Carolinas,
those
right? Like
kids don't
that's
want to
obviously
play.
where my
They don't
mind
want to
goes.
play. That's what it is.
Right.
Mhm.
Like Texas, they you have to find areas where they want to play
Well,
and
I
compete.
agree. I mean, everything you're saying is on point, Dave. The what I've noticed from having doing it though is that we're sitting here, and the actual window to play that makes you unique is not in the spring; it's in June and July.
Right.
You
When
have
there's
you have
not much going on other
nothing.
sport wise. Like all we're watching right now is whatever baseball game is on, right? Like
Yeah,
that's why I feel like the MLB All-Star game is the best All-Star game out of all the pro leagues because there's nothing else going on, right? Like
I
the
could see that.
WNBA is kind of trying to take over that time slot, right? Post NBA finals to the start of football. That's that window.
Well, and look at it this way now. In the summer, this is where I think we had an advantage is we're up here more toward the north. Summer is a lot nicer for these guys. If
100%.
you're a kid that wants to play in Alabama or Texas, but it's like that, you know how freaking hot it is. I used to live in
So
Lubbock,
hot.
Texas Tech, so it's like,
Shit, yeah, coach, you were dialing it up in like 100-degree heat every
yeah.
freaking day.
So I think part of it is there's a region up here that makes it a lot easier for these linemen and these bigger guys that want to play because one thing Arena doesn't have is a bunch of linemen that the pros are going to look at. It's pretty
Right.
rare.
You got a bunch of
So
fullbacks.
yeah, and what lineman once and they'll go because there's nothing else, but they'll go to Texas or wherever
Right.
else it is, and they're cutting all this. I mean, they're losing weight like crazy. Then the NFL likes them, and they're like, oh, geez, you're not big enough to play. You know, we can't bring you to training camp. So I think that's a part of it. Another just offshoot thing that I've realized is, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but when it's a pro game, like if you go to an arena game or anything like that, they have beer sales.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're playing in a high school stadium, you can't sell beer in that stadium. So it's almost like you've got to find stadiums you can do that in
Right.
to give it a true pro environment. And you know, we played in a high school stadium, and we had a beer up on top of a hill outside of the stadium, and golf carts would go up and down. But it was a stopgap. That's something we're working on. But I know if you're looking at, you know, if you play at a college that's like a private university, something like that, you can get sales of beer if the president and those people want it. So I think that ties in a pro environment, and it's just how you build the circus around the game, so to speak.
Did you feel like that was a part of it too, coach? Like you played 3 games. Were they all home or were they on the road?
Yeah.
They were all home?
Yeah, they were all home.
How did you feel about playing in where you played? Right, it's a pretty nice stadium. I mean, it looked very,
Yeah, beautiful
definitely.
stadium.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Would you look to maybe go to maybe a Division III school that's around there, or some of that? Would you look to kind of get into a different type of stadium? Do you feel like that factored into it at all?
I didn't think it at first, but after going through it, I'm realizing that is an issue.
Right.
So what we're doing now is our financial people are looking at every aspect of how'd you do in merchandising, how you doing in all the different aspects of the financial side, and we'll come up with something that hopefully can work. Now, I love where we play. The facility was fantastic, and
did you practice there as well?
Yeah, practice, play. We had locker rooms. We had laundry rooms, equipment rooms. Everything was there. We had it for the period of time we were there. But, knowing what I've learned is we need to at least start looking to see what might be out there potentially that could make it more, I don't want to say arena football, but if you go to an arena football game, you can buy a beer, you can get stuff,
and that's
like
important.
that.
I mean, it really is, regardless of what it is, right? Even the colleges that sell alcohol in the stadiums and whatnot, like you see a different level of whatever.
Oh,
It's just part of the game, right? Like it's just how people work. It's about it's
You've
just
been to Morgantown, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, West Virginia. Yeah,
Yeah, my
absolutely.
friend Rich Rodriguez, we talk about that. It's like, man, he wants to burn couches. It's an old school deal, right? So
He'll have him back up and running soon. I'll tell you that much.
oh, he will for sure. Rich, a good friend. So, but I think,
but that's that area, though, Coach, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, you're
that's
talking
where we're
about
at. That's all within
what else
300
is where
miles.
there's like West Virginia football. Like, even when we talk about going down to the South, right? Like Alabama, Auburn, no pro teams, right? Mississippi, like the South, like that. Where there isn't and it's very different, I think, for Dave and I. Yeah,
You can't be in a
What's that,
college
Dave?
town unless you're doing it in the summer or something.
right.
But you have to be in a town that's big enough to hold a professional team. Like there are you got places like Evansville, Indiana. Like right, that's like a city that has a small college. They don't have anything. You have Albany, New York was always great for the arena football because there is nothing in Albany, New York. Like you look at Albany, you look at like Erie, PA, you look at markets like that where Utica, New York, that won't have.
Think about your camp circuit, Dave. Right, like your national
My
camp
camp
circuit.
would not. My camp circuit was big cities, so.
Right.
So it would not be good because we're looking for the most players. This would have to be second tier markets that don't have a college that's going to draw all the attention. But there's an opportunity because there's a lot of markets that are not like it's old. It's places like Wheeling, Ohio Valley, areas that used to have manufacturing, that used to have. An area that was like a boom area. It was a boom area that is no longer a boom area. And they're trying to
like a
figure out
Syracuse, New York. Am I thinking like along those lines?
Regrow it. They're trying to figure out how to regrow without manufacturing, and trying to find new ways to be able to do things. And there are cities all over America that are like that. But
there's more of them than there are big cities. There's a whole lot of minor league type cities. So I think the key is to find the right people there, the right ownership, the right support. And if we can do that, and that's sort of what I'm looking at this quarter as we're forging our Ironman for 2026. So we're going to keep moving ahead. I'm working on a few projects that I feel can move us in the right direction. And Dave, for you and Derek, that's on a side, then we need to just sit down and talk about this because I love your concepts. I want the good input. I feel like we're pretty close to getting the right type of leadership in this. And just figuring it out. What's the best way to do it? And there's a lot to it, but there's a market, especially June, July. I think that's where the market is right now.
And you would look to obviously, Coach, if I'm on, you would look to kind of finish up right before these guys say could get signed on an NFL roster and head to training camp, correct? Or is that even not even a thought?
I mean, the NFL can always come pluck a guy. There's never a worry with us. We always say, hey, you're good to go. Same thing with the CFL. What I like was finishing up like first week of August or into July gives you a window for a lot of these guys to go to the Canadian Football League mid-year.
So is that kind of where your aiming point is? Is it more Canadian League and NFL? Great if that happens, but like let's focus more here because here's your opportunity to get on a team for the rest of the season where they're looking to maybe make a run and they need that one little piece.
Yeah, I've got
think the key is
guys
that
right now that they're looking at.
That those players could make the NFL, but really that they're not. Like to me, it's like if you get to the point where you're able to pay guys that the league's has enough people there that they don't feel like the NFL, like they might get picked up by the NFL, but that's not going to make the league sustain. If it's a feeder to the NFL only, it just eventually to me all these leagues fail because if they're a feeder to the NFL only and the UFL right now is the biggest feeder, if they don't have their own cachet and it's just we got to get to the NFL, then and it's not owned by the NFL,
Right.
then it ends up being a difficult to sustain because the only question everybody asks is
Can
like,
you
are you
make
going
it?
to the NFL?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it has. I mean, those like that's why I always point to the arena in its heyday and like what uniqueness or CFL uniqueness. CFL players go to the NFL, but they are not. They are not thinking like the people in the CFL are like, yes, those guys want to get back to the NFL, but their league is sustainable that they don't have to go to the NFL. They can
Right.
make a
Okay.
salary playing in the CFL. The same thing with Arena until they got that, too many owners and too much things going on there. But at one time, it was sustainable for a good amount of teams. And I think that's the key. Like,
I thought it was awesome too. I thought it was so cool.
I
Like the
mean, that's
concept,
that's
right?
the key because otherwise it keeps coming back. You keep getting to like the same restart situation and like the regional football league, the XFL, the all these leagues that have come and gone. Like the regional football league, I remember that was big when I was coming out of college. They were trying to start the regional football league, and it was like going to be in college towns or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that failed miserably. Like they wanted to bring guys that didn't make the NFL but went to this college over here. Like they don't want to watch them anymore,
Yeah, it's different.
So they want to watch the next college kid.
Mhm.
And I think that's, but yeah, there's a lot to it. Like I think what you did was awesome. Is awesome. It has to be replicated. It has to be. Like you got to bottle up what you're starting to do, and see the hard thing with French individual owners is that everybody has their own ideas and everybody is like, just haven't been in business for a long time. Like I have an idea that let's say I want to run a showcase this way. And I could go and say to a bunch of people, follow my way of doing it, and
Yeah.
I'll sell you a franchise. And then they'll say, well, you know what? I think this would be better if we did it this way.
Right.
No longer that's not a franchise anymore. Now
Correct.
that's your own individual business. Perfectly fine, but
That's
not
a good
part of
point, Dave. It's funny. It's sort of almost like, hey, I just bought a McDonald's and I'm
Right.
going to start making tacos
Right.
because I like tacos. Well, that shit doesn't work. Excuse
Right.
my language, but I mean,
Right.
it's just the way it is, and it's like,
Hey, I don't like the
franchise
colors
is a
you use. Let me change the entire scheme of the whole thing. I don't like the
Yeah.
logo. Let me tweak that, right? Like, and then like Dave said, like that's where you are no longer a franchise, right? Like Dunkin' Donuts has been successful moving on because when you buy a franchise, like this is what you do, and this is
Yeah.
I've figured out how to be successful. All you have to do is follow suit and
anyone
copy
can
it.
open a coffee shop, right?
100%.
You don't have to be Dunkin' Donuts to open a coffee shop.
No.
But if you want to get the benefits of Dunkin' Donuts, you got to do it Dunkin' Donuts' way. Now, could me and Manny open up our own coffee shop and make way better donuts than Dunkin' Donuts? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now try and franchise that, right? So,
Yeah.
so we might be able locally. I always say, like, when I had training facilities, when we had our original training facility, it was fantastic. When we went to facility number 2, we still held on to a lot of our things that we were able to do in facility 1 because we had the same guys moving between those places.
Yeah.
When we added facility 3 down in Wall Township, an hour from where we were in Bergen County, and the other 2 places were in Bergen County, that was when it began to fall apart because we realized, wait a minute, even though these guys came from us, we can't monitor what they're doing 24/7. It was hard, and we didn't have we were wholly owned, and we didn't have like a way of being able to enforce things and being able to do. So we end up pull back on Wall, right? And so that wasn't it didn't work for us. So that's the whole thing in the difference between a like so you have something that's bottled up and pretty successful, and you have to figure out things that you need to do to make it more successful. And then that has to be something that other people can replicate in your league, not the other way around. So like the guy who's driving, who owns the whatever it is, own the league, like he was just picking team. It's just saying, hey, we got high profile coaches. Everyone knows their name, and that's gonna take care of everything. But no, that doesn't work because some guys are business orientated like you are. Some guys, and these are all friends of yours, some guys just want to coach ball, right? So that's that you need more guys like Manny Matsakis, runs an innovative system that's exciting, can manage a business, those kind of things, has the ability to do that. Those guys fit the profile better than, let's say, one of the guys that you're, from your original network that just wants to coach ball, right?
No.
Because obviously at the end of the day, like there still has to be a business person associated. And in the beginning of the whole thing, it's your coach, your business person, your GM.
You're wearing every hat.
You're a small business owner. That's what you are. You're doing everything in the beginning, but you're developing your system, and you want those guys to replicate that system. And that's really how it has to work. That's why I think it comes more from you than it does from the league, because the league guy, like he's operating and he's like, this is what a league could be, but no one else is on board with it.
Right.
Evidently they weren't, right? That's the issue. So that's why we're here. But I agree with what you guys are saying. I mean, that's all in this. Honestly, by the time we get through July, August, and September, by October we're going to be in pretty good shape for 2026.
That'd be cool.
I think it'll all
be really awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And and I've been a lot of meetings researching ways to do this.
Of course.
Talk to minor league teams in a variety of sports, from baseball to soccer. How does this all work? And I think, once I get a little closer, maybe in September, I'd like to come back and share some things of where this thing's going, because it'd be I think there's a great opportunity here, and people are excited about it. It's how do you knowing what I learned this year,
right?
How can I eliminate the speed bumps that are along the way for other potential teams? So that's where we're headed to next. And in the meanwhile, we're going to start signing guys for next year in August. We're going to have some tryouts, get some things going in the fall while it's football season, and make the Ironman a force to be reckoned with in 2026. So
quick question in terms of that, Coach. How many on your roster? How many did you carry? Kind of how did that hold? Like, just give me kind of your roster breakdown in terms of how you kind of work that out. Just real quick.
And I like the concept. It's a 40-man roster, which is plenty to go around and play. You got to be smart about how you practice.
Of course,
you're not banging them up. Your NFL style practices. So 40-man roster. We carried 2 of them were quarterbacks. And then everybody, we had a long snapper, punter, kicker, and then everybody else on each side of the ball. So you try to get more linebacker types, defensive back types, so you can play all your special teams. Our special teams were the same as the NFL, same rules,
right?
Which actually saves their legs, like on the kickoff and stuff like that. So I was glad for that, even though I'm more of an old school, like let's run down the field and hit somebody. But in the end, for a league, it made a lot more sense.
Yeah, you got to work smarter.
And we had very few injuries. We only had 1 injury the whole season. That was
awesome.
Yeah, so we had a good quarterback that went down, and sort of sucked for him. He broke a clavicle or something like that.
Easiest bone to break. Been there.
Yeah, but I think all in all, that's the way you structure it. And you need about 5, maybe 6 coaches max.
Right.
That's it. And in the summer, depending on where you are, you can get high quality coaches that have coached small college, or maybe retired, or really good high school guys, that say, hey, I want to do this instead and coach at a pro level instead of dealing with high school kids and parents and all the things that go into coaching at at the high school level that A lot of people, they leave the profession, and that's why
because of
you have,
that.
well, you got so many people coaching high school ball now that don't teach in the school system,
Right.
because they can't find teachers willing to put up with all that, right?
Coach, we
And
deal with it every day. Dave's seen it. I've seen it, right? Like you've been a high school coach. I remember when you were in North Carolina, some of the things. What was that? Enka? Enka? Was that it?
yeah,
Yep. Yep. I remember when you were there and some of the things that, you know, I mean, even then we used to go back and forth. You're like, man, high school. I'm like, yeah, it's coach. It's different. You know,
yeah,
it's wild.
it is.
And
Yeah.
it's a different profession now. Dave and I, we talk about it all the time. Majority, like you said, of your coaches aren't in the building. If they are, right, they're wearing so many hats, they're doing so much, right, which is to me, I mean, if you want to sustain winning, high school football coaches, you're 365 7 days a week. I mean, it's Christmas morning, you're getting texts from kids and it ain't Merry Christmas. It's, you know, hey coach, when do workouts start? Or, you know, it's just with recruiting and all of that aspect of going into it, the transfer, the NIL stuff, it's all trickling down to where we see a lot of really good either older coaches, right? And I'm kind of right in that middle ground now where this will be my 16th season. So I'm a little of the old school with mixed with the new school, but I see younger coaches that are now in it for very different reasons than I got into it, right? Whether it's, you know, hey, I mean, I just want to come in and why am I not calling plays? Why am I not the offensive coordinator? Well, because, you know, this isn't Madden. You know what I'm saying? So even as, you know, that we're trying, the game is becoming more of that. But it's just very different. We talked to guys recently that are really talking about there needs to be a system in place where coaches get coached on the aspects of being a head coach where, and it's literally one of the things we talk about all the time. Being a head coach is you are so far removed from the X's and O's of the actual coaching aspect of the game because you're handling all of the off the field stuff
Yeah.
that a lot of guys get into it saying, well, what do you mean? Like, I have a great offense, I have a great defense. We do that. That's not what any of this is, right? Like it is, you know, why is Jimmy not playing? So and so's not in school. He's messing around in class. I can't get to practice. These uniforms are different. I mean, there's just so much, coach, where coaches need to be coached. And you've been at the highest of levels. You've coached on every level of it for a long, long time. You know, just one last thing before we go. I'd love to get your take on how have you seen coaching change, right, throughout your journey in terms of every level you've been? Like, how has coaching changed? And if it hasn't, please tell me, right? Because, you know, I'd just love to hear your take on it quick before we let you go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say the biggest change I've noticed in coaching is alludes to some of the things you just mentioned, Derek. I mean, back in my day, it was a true mentorship deal. You got in, you understood, you had your deal. I mean, a lot of guys would do it for nothing or next to nothing, and just to teach. Right, so
Yeah.
teaching was the biggest part of coaching.
Right.
Where today, you know, you've got all these resources on YouTube and all these different things, and guys think they're become masters of, hey, you know, I'm going to take Hal Mummy's air raid course, and guess what? I'm certified. So
Yeah,
therefore
I'm
I
air raid
am,
certified.
well, I'm as good as Hal Mummy at coaching the offense, which, you know, there's so much stuff you can't put in a course. I haven't really seen one yet that approaches true mentorship.
Right.
You know, it would take a consistent building out of webinars and on-site type things, all that. You'd have to do a lot more to help a coach get there.
Right.
I do like that most of the coaches come in knowing a lot more,
Right.
but you know, there's a double-edged sword to that. I mean, for me, when I went to Hofstra years ago, all I knew was what I knew through my mentors. That's
Right.
it. And I wasn't online because we didn't have that, you know, research like, oh, what can you do here or there? So it's almost like these younger coaches that have screen overload, and they're constantly on their phones or looking at stuff, and they lack the focus to get through to what they want to do. But some of them figured out, hey, I've got a system. I'm learning from this. I'm going around the clinics. I'm going to learn from the right people.
Right.
Those guys are the ones I have seen that become the most successful. When you're play of the week, changing it up all the time, I haven't seen very many, less than this many guys actually pull that off. So
Right.
that's the biggest change I've noticed from when I was growing up.
Right. And I can remember, Coach, like even when you were at Hofstra and you would come out to our, mini camp in June and basically install the offense, but through your eyes with some of our high school tweaks. It was great, right? It was on-site coaching. It was, hey, here's the overhead projection of here's the play we're running, and you're up there on the board. It was the first introduction that I had to that level of implementation where now that's the norm, right? And I felt like we were on the cutting edge, not only offensively and what we did X's and O wise, but just how it happened. Like most schools didn't have college level guys coming in to implement an offense where now that's kind of the norm, right? I mean, you see guys all over the country flying around and doing this and doing that. And you don't see people going to clinics anymore because they have that access to the on the field stuff. And it's a very different world, right, in terms of the players and how we implement things and going across the board. But, I mean, you've been around a lot of good assistants. I'm sure a lot of bad assistants, the pros and the cons of it. But I want to hit on the one thing that you said, that people used to coach to teach, but now teaching is looked at as like, hey, this isn't a very good profession in terms of whatever it is. People don't want to teach, and coaching is teaching. If you can't teach, you're not going to be a very good coach. And I'll stand on that pedestal like my entire life because that's what it is. But it's very different, right, when you're not in that school system to do that and to relate to those kids, because you just don't see them anywhere else other than football oriented stuff. So I think that's a big part of it too, is there's a lot more outside of the game that goes into it. But coaching has 100% definitely changed, and Dave can attest to it because he's seen it all.
For football, the only way you're going to get high school coaching in the long run to get guys to be teachers and coaches is to do what Texas has done, what Georgia has done, what South Carolina has done, and other places are going to learn the hard way that it's just going to be parochial schools that are going to have all the players if you don't do that. And I don't mean that there's still not going to be good high school football in public schools, but you're going to be reliant on the hit or miss factor of the coaches you hire. Whereas in those states, even if you lose, they're not bad coaches. You're just, because everybody has that ability to hire a guy full time. So that's the issue. And then what you have is, I think it ends up it gives you less of a pool in the long run in football if they don't do that, because people are demanding. See, football is unique in that even though you could 7-on-7, you could AAU it with 7-on-7 stuff, but it's unique in that it's still through the schools. So every other sport, and I mean every other sport, is basically done through some AAU system. Even though the kids love playing, in the state championship in baseball for their high school, there's no doubt about it. But everything else with respect to recruiting and is done through their AAU system, which is, from lacrosse to baseball to soccer, they're all club teams. It's all that model, and you could argue whether it's good or bad, but that's what's happening. But football, because it goes through the schools, and that's the main aspect of it, it has to be treated that way. It has to be treated much more professionally. And Georgia, South Carolina, Texas has done that. I'm sure there are other states that maybe do some of that. If you want to have consistency across your coaching profession, because all the good coaches are going to run to those states.
You're starting to see it. You're starting to see a lot of guys move.
A class or two, but they're going to run to those states, and that's what's going to happen. And then you have less development in the other states that you're in. And look, I mean, to me, like, you're going to have less Teddy Bridgewaters want to take a job at his old high school
Yeah,
because
because look at that. Look
the
at how
second
that's
he
been.
pays for everybody, as a rich
Boom.
guy, he
Slap it
gets
on the wrist. You get in
he
trouble.
was a volunteer coach. He was basically paying to coach, and you're thrown out. And that's the part that Florida's got an issue because of that aspect of it. But why has Georgia become
Oh
one of
yeah.
the states that has the fastest growing number of Division I players out of it? It's because they professionalize coaching like Texas has.
Yeah.
And South Carolina, which is a much smaller state, has a ton of really good football players from it for the same exact reason. And I think that has to be done more. And that because the old model like with New Jersey, for example, administrators don't hire coaches to teach. Okay, they hire teachers, and then they're like, "Oh, we need an assistant coach." I know you planted flowers as your hobby, but we need a football coach, and you just need to go out there and stand over there and just
Yeah.
do whatever the head coach
Make
tells you
sure
to
everybody gets on and off the bus.
do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a problem in
Yeah.
football. In other sports, can you get away with it in baseball? You know what? You can. You can get away with it in baseball. Your assistant needs to make sure everybody gets on the bus. One guy can coach for the most part, most of it. And if you have one other great assistant, you're in business. Not in football.
No.
Not in football.
It's
All the
different.
coaches that are assistants have to be able to contribute because if they don't, you're behind the eight ball as a coaching staff. And
Absolutely.
I think that's the difference. And that's what's changed so much throughout the country. And that's why, you could argue, why do have kids in these other states flock to like these private schools? Well, it's because it's not that, yeah, they're playing with better players, but they also know that they're getting coaches who are there to coach football. And not plant trees for a living, and then by the way, go coach the wide receivers because we feel like they're athletes and you can just tell them what to do, type of thing.
It's not
And
that
that,
way. You're
that
right.
has to change in New Jersey
Oh yeah.
and other places that are like it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's more of them than there is the other, but totally agree, guys. Yeah. But
Anyway, well,
exciting stuff.
it's great having you on, Coach.
All right. I appreciate it. And we'll be in touch soon on a few things we're working on. Okay.
Definitely.
All
Thanks,
right.
Coach. Appreciate the
All right.
time.
We'll see you guys.
All right.
All right.
It's a tough concept. I know. It's an uphill battle. Any way you
I
want
know.
to spin it. I give him credit for trying to pound the pavement and kind of get after it and do whatever. But unless he finds people that are literally willing to take his model and how he did it and say, okay, I'm going to do exactly this. I don't know. I'm trying to be a glass half full guy with it, but I just think it's a really tough world to navigate, even with the success that he had and doing what he did, Because like you said, a lot of guys aren't going to just take the model and run with it and be like, okay, I'll do it this way. They're not going to do that. They're going to want to put their
Think
own
about if
spin
you're a
on it.
Division I player, and you were really good, but you weren't good enough to make the NFL. You made $100K a year for 4 years.
Especially now.
Right, you made $100K, or even if you made $50K a year, you made $200,000. You know what? If you saved half of it, right?
Yep.
100,000, because they're young kids, they're going to blow half of it, right?
Of course.
So if your parents got you to save half of it, you have $100K to start your life, and maybe you want to be a coach in college instead of this, right? Well, so my thing is, players don't want to play. That's the bottom line. Manny's found a lot of players, but a lot of the guys are going to struggle. Players don't want to play, okay? And there's enough pro leagues out there for them. If they do, those are taking CFL, UFL are taking the overwhelming majority of the viable players.
Of course.
Overwhelming majority of them. And so it's going to be hard to continue to get and I don't even There was a time when Arena took the other
Correct.
majority of them. But the reason why Arena failed, and I didn't say it to him, but because there weren't any good players anymore. I
Right.
watched Shane's practices when he was coaching the Atlantic City team.
You're like, woof.
Now, look, are they size wise? I mean, there were some big dudes. It's not like they're,
Of course, that's never. I don't think that's ever real. You know what I mean? You
but
can
their
get somebody that
skills,
looks the
Derek.
part.
Their
Yeah,
skills.
could
I'm
catch a ball.
watching them, and I'm like, their skills, dude. Their skills. One or two guys, you would see me like, all right, that guy's good enough. Those two are good enough. The rest of them were not. They were
Right.
not that good. I was looking at it from an agent standpoint, okay? Because I was an agent still at the time. And I was like, I would sign none of them.
Nope.
0. So remember, I was a fringe guy. My guys were fringe. Okay. And they look at it as it like this is how players look at it because this is just how it is. Players look at it like you're a second tier agent. You should be thankful to sign me.
Right. And you're like, buddy.
They're like, no, my reputation will never
Correct.
let me get a player to a team if I sign someone like you. So it's not that they're not like they're good. Like I don't know. It's interesting. Like when you've seen
Good players.
levels, like
Yes.
when you've seen it, it's just hard to unsee it. Everything else, you know what I mean? You know, it was great. Not Chris Olsen. Greg Olsen.
Yeah, great podcast.
Did you watch it? So
Yep.
it was funny when he was talking about how he coaches his son. I was like, oh my god, that's how I am with my son. Okay.
It's also funny to see who he coaches with.
Yeah, well, in middle school, yes, but he's got all those other pros. But I thought what ring true to me was this: you could tell that he's a coach's son, right?
Oh,
Because
100%.
so when he's saying that, like, I don't care if they don't want to play sports, but if they do want to play sports,
Right.
and they tell me they want to be good, I can't not tell them this is what you have to do. Like, otherwise, you're not trying to be good, which is okay, but don't tell me you want to be good, right?
Correct.
So like,
right.
And that's kind of
and look, Dave, it's funny you say that, right? Because I literally had this conversation with some of the kids the other day. Like, look, buddy, you told me you wanted to play college football. So
Right.
to me, guess what? I'm coaching you different than I'm coaching the guy that told me, Coach, high school is it for me. When I'm
Right.
done, I'm going to go to work. Like, that's what. Okay, bud, I'm sorry. But look, like, everybody is treated. What is it? Everybody is treated fairly, but not everybody's treated this. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm going to hone in on you differently, right? Like, hey, if that guy just touched the cone, like, all right. But now I told you to go around the cone. Like, we're talking about like, hey, I'm going to be on, right? If that guy's not writing this stuff down in his notebook, that's on him. Now, if you don't write down, well, why didn't you say something to him? Well, you told me, buddy, you wanted to play college football. So,
that's it.
And I'm sorry, people can, judge or say, hey, well, you should coach everybody the same. No. Why am I going to put that effort into somebody who's not going to return it?
They all have to meet the standard, but the guys who tell me they want to be above the standard,
then guess what, buddy? I'll coach you above the standard.
Right. Otherwise, yeah, you'll be look, the standard is high, but the standard is high relative to high school success, right?
Correct.
So
because we've talked about it. You can be a really good high school player with drive, effort, like just giving me your best. I can find a role for you to be successful in high school. Now, if you want to get to this level, like, guess what? That's a different set of boxes to check. So, yeah, like, I'm not going to, like, I know he only did 8 reps and not 10, but if you only do 8 reps, I'm saying something to you because you want to be at this level. Like, that's kind of how it works, man. Sorry. Now, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to get to that level and just being okay playing high school football, dude. That is totally fine.
That's
I love that you want to be right. You want to be a part of it. You want to be a contributor. Totally fine. But if you want to be a dude, then I got to coach you like a dude. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job, right? And it's up to me to figure all of that out, right? So when you see some of these guys, like, they pull a guy to the side and they're coaching him up, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? That guy, he wants to just be on the sideline wearing the jersey. That is all he wants to do, and that's okay. That's totally fine, right? So I think that's something that's difficult for guys that have never seen that level of talent, right? And I give a credit to you for this, having worked with you and the ability to do the showcases and the combines and even the schools that we've been at and whatnot, getting to see that level of talent outside of where you played, grew up, right? Like all of those things, I think gives me such a different perspective, and in my eyes puts me above some others who, if you've only coached where you played or you've only been in this region or this state, you just don't know what else is out there. And yes, can you watch a YouTube clip or can you watch these guys on social media that you're like, wow, this guy's really good, and you're like, yeah, and then when we're talking about, hey, our guy's really good, okay, for here, right? And now with that, with with colleges and the portal and all of these things where you have to be something really, really special to play college football at any level, because the talent is now trickling down. It's only getting better at the lower levels, right? And so if you identify that as, hey, this is the track I want to take, well, look, this isn't for everybody. You can say it, but it starts now, and it starts, right? What classes are you taking next year? Because if you want to play in college, again, we can't be taking Harry Potter here.
But
right?
the lower levels of college, you don't have to be a freak.
Correct.
But you've got to be able to be a good football player and give everything you have, and you've got to work really, really hard.
100%.
Okay, when you get to the highest level, you've got to do all that, and you have to be a freak.
And somebody.
Then you got to be a freak.
Correct.
You've got to be Mike Gesicki walking in the door. You've got if you're a shorter guy, a 5'9" guy,
you got to be a bullet.
Jump through the roof, be a bullet. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, be willing to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the work part of it is automatic. You have to have this drive of, attention to detail oriented and all those other stuff. The freak show aspect is either comes genetically, because look, you can work hard at whatever it is, and we say it all the time, your 40 is your 40. You can change it a little bit, but it's not, we're not talking going 5 flat to 4-4 here. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, you kind of are what you are. And that aspect of it, that's what separates, your Division IIIs from your scholarship guys. It's not, because they'll find you, yes, right? It's not the where you play. That helps, right? But it is what it is. There's not that many of these guys walking around. You know what I'm saying? So
there's no doubt.
It's just what it is. There is a pool of, this is what we're working with. And yes, development and all that stuff goes into it. You can, but working hard is dude, that has to be. That's an automatic.
I noticed, when I went to Atlanta, this is what I think is and it'll listen, I hope Manny, I think, if there was a Savannah Bananas of football, that would be a good idea. I don't know how you would do it. I don't know if, what the best way to do that would be. Right. But I look at it what struck me about when I went to watch at the time Shane coach that team was I walked in, and when you walk in, you know what? There were guys that were 6'4", right? There were guys that were big. And then I watched them play. Okay. So people think just because they're also freakish big, right, that
it's an automatic. Yeah. It's no, dude. It doesn't work like that.
You still got to be able to run. Okay. Be able to play. There's things that are different level. And I'm sure some of those guys played Division I because they were at that size that was correct and they got in there, but then their play or their overall thought. So that's like, it's really, really hard to explain to people.
Right. They don't get it. They can't because they just never have seen it, Dave.
But
They've
once
never
you've
seen
seen
it.
it, you can't unsee it.
Correct.
Okay.
Like for me, I can't now compare every guy that I have to whoever.
And watching them from the stadium is not the same. So when you watch an NFL team in a stadium,
Different.
you're really up 5,000 feet.
Right.
You
You don't know that.
You meet them,
And
they
now
might
you're like, whoa.
fight, you
Right.
know,
Like, whoa.
you have to be down on the field with them, to be
Right.
able
And
to
your
do it.
example when we were talking, like, because you went to Mike Gesicki's camp, right? And some of the other dads around you were like, well, which one's him? And you're like, hey, you'll know
You'll know.
when he walks out on this field. And then when he did, dad's little eye-opening come to Jesus moment, like, oh, okay. That's why he's, a 3-sport, whatever in high school and an All-American in college. And that's why he's in the league and been on, has had multiple contracts.
I tell people, you want to see what kind of athlete he was? Watch him in the state semifinals, because I happen to watch it on TV, volleyball versus Fairlawn. Okay? Yeah. Fairlawn was unbelievable. Southern is unbelievable. Different reasons. One's a beach volleyball area, obviously, and one's an indoor. Fairlawn was known for indoor volleyball, those people. Okay? And when you watch what he was, the most freakish athletic guy, even though there were some guys that could jump, because obviously volleyball, when you at that level, they could all jump pretty good. But he was just so far above when he would jump. First of all, he was bigger than everybody physically, and he could jump. Because their other team had guys that were 6'4",
of course,
6'5", but they couldn't. They weren't the presence that he was. And you watch him. By the way, that's like his third sport, right? Like,
absolutely.
So you see him and playing his third sport,
right?
And he's that good, like
100%.
I don't know what
Yes. And, where do you got how it's
like how do you yeah, how do you tell people?
When look, Dave, even you running your national camp circuit, right? Like Johnny Manziel, Marcus Mariota, right? Like what's his name? Arizona quarterback, Texas.
Kyler Murray.
Like, guys, this is the I rushed for 1,000 yards in New Jersey. Okay, great. Like this is different, right? Like the guys that are playing on Saturdays on CBS for Big Ten teams.
You know who gave me that whoa? That we like, and we had a lot of really good guys that have come through. We had some really big guys in the Borough Beast. But you know who gave me that whoa? That played Michael Ford. When Michael Ford, the first, even though he was he's my height or maybe an inch shorter,
right?
But like physically,
correct.
Physically, he was like Micah Parsons.
And do you remember how shocked people were when he went out to Stanford? And a couple weeks later, it's like, hey, he's the starting running back. And we looked at each other like, yeah, I guess they found him. Like, running back's going to be a spot. And people were like, wow, like it's like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. And you're talking about a guy that was the best player in his conference for like not just senior year either, right? Like, and to see that's the type of people just don't understand it because they've never seen it. And I do think it's changing a little bit with social media because of the access to seeing, players on a different level. But like you said, it's the same reason when like you want to scout a team, you'd rather go to the game to see it in person rather than watch it on Huddle, right? Because wow, this team's huge, right? Or holy shit, that guy's fast. Like not Huddle fast, like game fast, like damn, right? I think it's just different. And I think that experience is like, I really chalk it up to like totally changing my outlook on how I coach, the way I coach, the delivery of my coaching, where it's at, speaking with parents and kind of, having to have that really honest conversation of, yes, like I know you think this, but it's kind of this, It's why I love the network that doing this stuff has created, not only with the podcast, but with other coaches, when I can send them a film or a guy goes to their camp and they can give me that honest feedback. Like, hey, he's an FCS player. He's a Division II player. Now I can put in my brain what is, you know what I mean? Like kind of the levels to help guys. And they might, mom and dad might get pissed when it's like, hey, you're a Division III player, but that's what it is, dude. I'm not saying you can't get to wherever, but I'm saying opportunity wise, this is what's going to come. And unfortunately, a lot of parents don't want to hear that. And people aren't willing to have those honest conversations. But the background that I have separates me from others in terms of, let me tell you and put you in a position to have the opportunities that you really want. And like the most success. And, you're talking about, everybody wants to compare to NFL, right? Even when guys go to combines and they run 40s, they're comparing their 40 times to guys about to be drafted. Like, you can't, you're a high school kid. Like, it doesn't factor in like that, man. And parents that doesn't calculate when it comes to that. The awareness of it. Very few. It's difficult. And I get it because I have kids and they're the most important thing to you. And I get it. But at some point, you need to have that actual real conversation of, this is what it is.
There are other sports.
Doesn't have to be football, man.
No, I'm saying there are other sports where you can get to a certain level by working.
Right.
You could be a decent athlete and be a Division III baseball player.
100%.
But if you got your skills really good,
right.
Meaning, I've seen guys. I'm friends with guys that definitely probably couldn't play another sport,
But they could play that one.
They could play that one because they could hit really well,
right?
Or they could do so. And there are other sports like that, I think you could probably play Division III lacrosse if you get your skills really good with the stick and your decent speed. You know what I mean? You don't have to have elite speed. And but obviously to play Division I is different. But I'm saying to play Division, so you could do that. Whereas football, like Division III football, man, they're those guys are good. Like those guys are.
Football's just different, man. It's a different.
Now there are certain low level ones. You like there are low level Division IIIs. I guess that there are. Now I'm not. Your conference was a really good conference. There are,
but I look at some of the
there are low level three
what there's a level.
I don't want to call it out by name, but there are.
Yeah, of course, I don't want to do that.
There are some that
there are some schools that hey, if you want to play college football, we can get you in. And you know what I mean? And now I'm not saying you're going to win many games. I'm not saying
you may not even get a starting job, but you'll be
correct. But you'll be on the roster. And when somebody clicks on it, they'll say, hey, so-and-so's from here. You know what I'm saying?
College football.
Right. And if you love the game that much and you really want to do it, right? But I also think the separation of, hey, do you really love football or do you love what football does for you? Because at that age, dude, hey, I'm on the football team, probably gets you, a second date. Right?
Eric, this is kind of funny, but I played some in basketball 1-on-1 against guys that were not starters, but backups on Division III teams.
Right.
And I beat them in 1-on-1. Now, which is
and that wasn't your sport?
No, I didn't even play in high school. I mean, I'm a good athlete. I could dribble, and I could, I could do what I do well. I'm not going to probably you would probably steal the ball from me because you were a really good basketball player. But I probably have a hard time getting off shots against you. I have to use my body against you.
Of course.
But
which is where I always lost, but that's fine. You know what I mean?
I'm saying it would be hard for me to play you.
But also, you look at that too, David. That's literally what we're talking about,
right?
You're 6 what? I'm 5 what? There's a physical, measurable. You're gonna win, regardless of how good. You know what I mean?
If I tried to beat you off the dribble, I probably would have a hard time because you're going to be quicker and lower.
But that also goes back to the whole look. If you play football, find your role right, within
Yeah.
the team, for the most, like, I can find something that you're good at to run you on the field and play for a snap, right? Like, hey, dude, you might be a huge body and you can go out there on field goal extra point and you can hold a gap for under 2 seconds. And guess what? You get to run on the field, you get to come back, you get to say you played, right? If
You know,
that's what you're looking for, I got you, right?
before I let you go, I think it's so interesting the number of kids that start out at places that transfer. And I think to myself, so guys who were reclassed with early offers
Yes.
went on the places that after they didn't mature that much more after they were mature. I don't know if that makes sense physically. So they got early offers, but they end up still going to a Division One school, and then they ended up back at the level they probably were at.
Correct.
Have you seen? I've seen a lot of that recently with transfers, and it's so it's
They shot for the moon.
well
They
they were mature earlier. They got early.
Well, remember, and we've said this numerous times, the hardest thing to calculate is middle school to high school. Because, again, and we've said this so many times, some guys just hit puberty and mature sooner. Everybody played in their AYF or their Pop Warner or their youth league where there was a player on another team,
You're like,
and you were
"What?"
like, holy shit, this is ridiculous. Now you get to high school, sophomore, junior. Hey, where's so and so who used to rock our worlds when we were in 7th grade, 8th grade? Oh, well, he's still on the team, but he's now just another one of the guys because everybody either caught up, hit puberty, or, you know what I mean? That early success in life in terms of I'm the man doesn't translate to high school. Maybe they're not even on the team anymore, right? I just think that you see, and with reclass, it kind of gives a blurred vision because those reclasses, for the most part, are more mature and have hit puberty sooner than other guys. So it like a true grade guy, which is rare. And I think there's a lot that goes into transfer. That's a whole different world, right? When it comes to, socially, emotionally, like, can they handle it? Are they academically, right? Like, is the work easy for them or is it hard, right? That's a whole different conversation in terms of reclass. Most people don't even think about that. All they think about is the sport. Like, but are you reclassing a guy that you're just hoping he hits 6 foot? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, that's a big right. So that's a big thing.
like
Like
for me to
they're already
reclass
at
would have been
5'11",
what?
and they're not going to get any bigger because they're already 16.
Right. What are we doing? Are we
Now it doesn't. Again, they could still be a dominant high school player. So this is the
100%?
thing where people get confused on. My God, he could be really because he's mature. He matured earlier. He's very confident, probably. And he might be ahead of everybody in the level of where he's at, even through high school. But there may not be an upside after high school. I don't know if that makes sense, but
100%, Dave.
there
And
may,
that
there
also
definitely
doesn't
may not
mean
be an
that
upside.
that doesn't, like, again, not everybody has to be good at sports or play sports. So stop trying to fit, whatever peg in a round hole. Like, it just sometimes it's just, dude, like, you can go be really, really good at something else. Like, sports are just
Anyway,
that driving factor that
no, I
everybody.
know.
It is what
Which
it is.
reminds me, after you get off the call, I wanted to call you real quick because I wanted to get your opinion on something. Because I got to run, but I wanted to get your opinion on something. By the way, when I ask you, whatever answer you give, it's not a right or wrong answer. I'm just curious your opinion. So it's not really a right or wrong answer. It's just,
Tomorrow, I'm juiced. Chris Corfus.
oh yes, that'd be great.
Dude, I've been RPRing, like, hey,
Get you.
yeah, like, get it. I'm like, all right, I know I'm going to have to throw the daughter around in the pool for the next couple hours. Like, let's go. Warm the shoulders up. Like, and And by the way, I say it every time, dude. I love Florida. I don't care how hot it is. I think it's amazing when I walk out the door and it's already 97 degrees and it's burning my face off. I just love it. I don't know how anybody's overweight down here because I would never have a freaking shirt on. Like, it's just, I freaking love Florida, dude. It is awesome. West Florida, Naples area, it's gorgeous.
Great area.
Talk about booming, though. Wow.
boom.
Like, and this is off season. I don't know. People are like, it's so hot. I'm like, dude, it ain't any hotter than Jersey's been the last, couple months, a couple weeks. Like, dude, this is what it is. It's just, it's awesome. I went and checked out a couple. Listen, I went and checked out a couple high school practices because they're on the field at like 6:30 a.m. to beat the heat. I mean, it's awesome because school starts in like a week down here. I mean, shit, it's rocking down here, dude. It's awesome.
Wow. All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Give me a call.
All right. Bye.